Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another live show of Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic rules, laws and rights. I'm your host Abu Talib Muhammad, and I'm joined by Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you, Sheikh? You well, inshallah? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ready to answer many questions?
Inshallah.
Inshallah. As we have said previously, that the show is running in live, and we shall be expecting and accepting all questions that you send in through WhatsApp, YouTube, Facebook, as well as you can give us a call on the number provided at the bottom of the screen and get a direct answer from the Sheikh. Sheikh, now we shall start, inshallah, the questions that have come in, and the first question has a verse from the Quran. It says, in Surah Ibrahim, verse 28, Allah states, "Have you not seen those who exchange the blessings of God with blasphemy?" What does this verse mean?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين.
Ameen.
Initially we take our tafsir from the second source as mentioned by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Kitab Allah wa Atrat Ahl Bayti. The Prophet's family and the progeny are the ones who gives it the true and the correct and the perfect tafsir of the Holy Quran.
No.
So for this verse, we go back to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, as mentioned in Kitab al-Kafi, narration by Imam Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam. He talks about this verse. He says, "Ma balu aqwamin ghayyaru sunnat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi." That what's wrong with those communities or people or group in which they have changed the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. You see, as mentioned, even the Kutub of Shia and the non-Shia as well. For example, Sahih al-Bukhari, in the Bab Tadhi' as-Salah an waqtiha, Anas bin Malik narrates this hadith, ajib, or this statement, maybe I think it's by him. It's not a hadith, prophetic hadith, but it's his own statement. He says, لا أعرف شيئا مما أدركت إلا هذه الصلاة وقد ضيعت. That I haven't seen anything since I've been into the Islamic society in which even the salah has been altered and changed.
No.
It's been lost in somehow. So even the non-Shia confess that the sunnah of Rasulullah was altered and changed after his demise. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is a narrator in which
this is narrated in
of Ahlul Sunnah. And in Bukhari, yes.
No.
So the salah is being changed as a result of deviating from the true sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he advised Muslims to follow the Kitab Allah wa Itrati, in which many Muslims did not, or even in time of Sahaba, did not comply and abide by this prophetic statement. So here Imam Ali alayhi salam states that a group of people غيروا سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. They've changed the sunnah of Rasulullah. There are people in which made this alteration. وعدلوا عن وصيه, and they have basically ignored and neglected the wasi and the vicegerent of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they went and they chose their own wasi and so forth, their own khalifa and so forth. لا يتخوفون أن ينزل بهم العذاب. They're not scared that adab would pour on themselves. So don't really care about the adab because some of them didn't believe in the hereafter. They were munafiqeen in other words. Then he says salamullah alayh ثم تلا هذه الآية. Then he recited the ayah you've mentioned.
Yes.
In Surah Ibrahim verse 28. ألم تر إلى الذين بدلوا نعمة الله كفرا وأحلوا قومهم دار البوار. As a result of changing the ni'matullah azza wa jal into blasphemy, as mentioned. And then they've ended up in نعوذ بالله hellfire. Then the Imam said ثم قال نحن النعمة التي أنعم الله بها على عباده. The ni'mah, the blessing are أهل البيت عليهم السلام.
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله.
وبنا يفوز من فاز يوم القيامة. And with us, who joins us and believes in us,
inshallah,
and acknowledges us as Ahlul Bayt, as the Imams of, as the true Khalifa and Khulafa, will be with us in Yawm al-Qiyamah, will be a winner in the day of judgment with us.
Inshallah.
So the one who joins them will be in paradise, and the one who leaves them will be na'udhu billah in hellfire.
Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be along the winners with Ahlul Bayt, inshallah, in paradise. We have a YouTube question and it says, is Shia science of hadith as good as Sunni one?
Well, you see, in terms of the hadith, we have the ilm al-diraya and ilm al-rijal as well, in which there's scrutiny about every single hadith, the narration, and the narrators of the hadith, the sanad, the rijal al-hadith, and so forth. So we still have also, let's say, hadith da'af and so forth, as the Ahlul Sunnah have. But the problem with Ahlul Sunnah that they have lots of narrators who we consider them as liars. As the da'af, for example.
Yes.
That's the problem. And because many of them made their own hadith supporting the Umayyad states, the Caliphate states,
yes.
to support that state.
Yes.
They made up many hadith, sadly. And that's why Rasulullah said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that كثرت علي الكذابة. Those who would lie, on my tongue, they have been increased. In other words, that in his time and after his time, they would lie on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said that, this is that, for example.
No.
So, of course, we differ with them in terms of how we take our time and intensive research by the ulama, by the fuqaha, to make sure that this hadith is the correct hadith. And of course, as Ahlul Bayt taught us, that bring this hadith to Kitabullah. If it's in lines and is parallel with Kitabullah, matches,
yes.
then take it. Otherwise, just throw it away or on the wall.
No.
Or keep it aside at least. So we try to make sure that the hadith that we take, especially for the fiqh, are the correct hadith to an extent. Otherwise, you would see a lot of hadith in Kitab Ahlul Sunnah which needs a lot of consideration, to be honest.
Especially referencing back to who is telling them.
Exactly.
If we can't reference to them as being true people or honest people, then we can't take them into consideration. Exactly. Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We've got another question that says, I wanted to ask, is there a salah called Salatul Tawbah? If so, how can you perform it?
There are different salawat one can do so by referring back to Mafatih al-Jinan.
Na'am, I've heard of Dua al-Tawbah.
Dua al-Tawbah, Salatu, but there are, one should refer back to the Kitab al-Adiyah for more details, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a WhatsApp question that says, are anashid which contain drums/defs halal to listen to? The Sufi ones, for example.
You see, these are musical instruments. Many of the ulama would not accept to use any type of music within the anashid and so forth. So they would forbid in terms of using musical instruments within these and even in other aspects and events. So one should not use specifically the for the Islamic anashid, for example. One should avoid it. Yes, you might have some ulama would allow in overly music, which is not entertaining music,
yes,
not a corruptive music, as they say, used in the nightclubs or other places, for example. But anyhow, one should refrain from using music within the religious, let's say, poetry or anashid and so forth.
Nah, thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have another question that says, if the lender makes a condition that the borrower pays back more than the item he borrowed, for example, let's say he lends him 10 kilos of wheat, on the condition that he pays him 12 kilos of wheat back, is this halal or haram?
Sometimes you see that you have a 10 kilo of, let's say, low quality wheat with 12 kilo of high quality wheat, for example, and you want to get that 12 kilo as a result.
Yes.
So, or the opposite, let's say, you want to get that 10 kilo, I think it's the opposite, yeah. 10 good quality of wheat.
Instead of 12 kilo, which is not the best.
Not the best, exactly.
Yes.
So you try to bring that 12 kilo and exchange it with the 10 kilo, which is less.
Better.
Because it's weighting products, weight, and there is difference between the products. I think there's 2 kilograms between these two items. Then it's usually riba, and it's not permitted.
Although it's been agreed upon between both parties.
Sorry?
Although it's been agreed upon between the person that's given and taking.
We have some transactions that are batil. you cannot proceed with this transaction. It's a
No.
batil transaction. So here we have a haram transaction in which would cause even usury or the known as riba in this transaction. One should avoid it. So the best thing is to
Inshallah.
sell it,
No.
sell this 10 kilogram of low quality wheat, get the money, and then go and buy the 12 kilogram of wheat.
Inshallah.
That's it.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We've got a similar question in regards to, let's say, riba and transaction. It says, is it permissible for an individual to sell $1,000 for $1,100 on the same currency to another person as part of a selling or lending transaction?
Well, again, this is not a permissible transaction. There's again riba in the middle in somehow, because they are actually exchanging the same currency, $1,000 with $1,100.
No.
As a result, that's riba. One cannot proceed with this transaction.
No, inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. And we have a WhatsApp question. It says, does Allah allow time of death to change based on dua of a believer? Will it be changed or adjusted depending on their du'as?
Changing of what, for example?
Time of death.
You see, we have لوح المحفوظ
نعم.
and لوح الموح والإثبات. The لوح المحفوظ gives exactly the time in which every person would pass away from this world.
صحيح.
But the لوح المح والإثبات is where if you do something, it's a precondition.
Yes.
If you do something, then you have a longer life. If you don't do it, then
You have a shorter life.
shorter life, for example. So it depends really. If he does something good, for example, as a result, he would get a prolonged life, for
No.
example. Let's say Salatul Rahim,
Yes.
helping individuals, for example, and so forth. That would change the course of one's, death time, let's say.
No. Can we say for having longer lives of what we know, we have like saying Salat al-Rahim
Exactly, as I've said.
gives you a longer life,
Exactly,
and,
yes.
and not having
And
Salat
we have-
al-Rahim gives
we
you
have,
a shorter
we
life.
have narrations.
No.
قطع الرحم, to cut this kinship,
Yes.
to cut it, to sever the bondship, this kinship, then of course that would cause less, lifespan for that individual. So as I've said, the لوح المحو والإثبات is where you can change. But if
نعم.
it's اللوح المحفوظ, the ajal is there, خلاص.
صحيح. صحيح. Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. Inshallah, let's answer the question for the WhatsApp. And inshallah, we hope to have many more questions coming in via YouTube as well as Facebook. And as we have said previously, that the show is live, and we hope to hear somebody's voice and get a straight answer from the Sheikh. The number is provided at the bottom of the screen. Why not pick up the phone and send a question to us? We have a WhatsApp question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I used to be a follower of the Ismaili sect of Shia Islam, and now I have repented and changed my belief. Do I have to repeat all my prayers? Till what moment of my life I have to make up my qadha prayers? Till the moment I have turned 13, or till the moment I had converted to Ja'fari school of thoughts?
That's a very good question. Basically, we have قاعدة الجب. الجب means الإسلام يجب ما قبله. So if you were a non-Muslim or a non-Shia, for example, then whatever you did in the past, for example, or you haven't done, let's say you prayed in the non-Shia way, for example, or you never prayed because you were a non-Muslim, for example,
No.
then you don't have to repeat all those years of fast and salah, because now al-Islam يجب ما قبله, so it wipes out whatever you have done in the past. It's now a new fresh page to start with. So one does not need to actually redo his salah and siyam.
No.
With regards to Ismaili, we have to see, would this apply the same? Inshallah, we'll try to find out.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Shaykhna. We have a question, and it says, is it permissible to purchase the bricks and timber belonging to a mosque?
Well, initially, it's one should refer back to the Shari'i trustee of the mosque to see if they allow. And of course, that with that money gained,
Should
they
go
have
back to the mosque?
Exactly, back to the mosque, and to change it to something, let's say, better bricks or marble and so forth,
No.
for renovation and so forth.
So you can't say that anything that belongs to the mosque can be traded?
For the mosque only.
For the mosque purpose only.
Exactly.
And could it be spent in another purpose, or is it to be spent in the same purpose? So let's say they've sold bricks, they have to buy bricks, or if they've sold lights, they have to buy lights, or they can spend it in any other department in the mosque.
Of course, they can actually use it to basically use it for the betterment of the mosque. So it's all in the hands of the trustee, who know better what to do with this money gained.
No. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a question, and inshallah, they want to know what Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani's opinion is about this. It says, is it okay to delay namaz, a wajib prayer, for going to a majlis or to a ma'tam?
The Sayyid would always say that to pray is better, for the one to try to pray on time. That would be a better option.
Inshallah. We have a question, and it says, does olive oil on the skin and on the scalp stop the water from reaching the skin and the scalp when washing and wiping for wudu? Must the oil be removed before making the wudu, or is it fine while having the oil on to carry on with your wudu, especially with today's lotions and oils that some people put on their hairs?
The olive oil does not block or makes a barrier or the obstacle for on the skin, let's say. It doesn't cause that barrier, so one can actually perform the wudu or ghusl while they have applied the olive oil on their, let's say, head.
No.
It doesn't really, even if you feel it's a bit like a greasy, but it doesn't really form some kind of a barrier or obstacle.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a YouTube question, and it says, is it true that doing dhikr in your heart or to yourself have no rewards, and dhikr must be done out loud using your tongue? So does it have to be said out loud, or does it have to be heard by yourself, or can you just say it to yourself while you're changing, while you're doing your work, just in your mind you're doing dhikr?
You see, we have different types of dhikrullah Azza wa Jal. One of them is the verbal dhikr. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah. The other type of dhikr, as mentioned in the narration, that about Abu Dharr rahimahullah, that most of his worship was التفكر في أمر الله, to ponder and think and reflect about Allah's creation.
No.
That is another type of dhikr.
Sahih.
You think about the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, this magnificent, great creation of Allah Azza wa Jal, of the earth, of the sky, of the universe, and so forth. Another dhikr is to remember Allah Azza wa Jal when it comes to the point of the haram.
No.
And you try to avoid that haram. Remember Allah Azza wa Jal in this time.
Yes.
That you don't watch the haram, you don't hear the haram, you don't say the haram, for example. That's some kind of dhikr.
No.
So, different types of dhikr. Qalb, if your heart remembers Allah Azza wa Jal, as I've said, if it's in the way of remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, as I've said, like Abu Dharr rahimahullah, for example, that would be great, of course.
No, inshallah. Now, speaking about dhikr, and I think we had another question about tawbah. What is the best dhikr for us to say throughout our daily routine? I know we can always go back to our books, like Al-Muntakhab Al-Hasani, that has all the ad'iyah, but what is one of the easiest dhikr that we can say, which has most reward?
Of course, the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad is one of the very rewardable and important dhikr.
No.
If one can do so, that would be great. In terms of cleansing one's sins and purifying one's mind and heart from the sins and bad thoughts, istighfar, astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh, 100 times in the morning, 100 times at the evening. So that would try to, cleanse and purify one's from the sins that they committed on that day or night.
Yes.
Another dhikr, which is mentioned in the narration, that it is one of the treasures of the paradise, kunuz al-jannah.
No.
Is to say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-azim, for example. Kanzun, yeah, it's one of the treasures.
No.
Tasbihat al-arba'a, subhanallah walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar again.
Yes.
La ilaha illallah, some narrations mention that, they would, plant for you a tree in paradise.
MashaAllah.
These tasbihat.
MashaAllah.
So one can actually, move from one dhikr to another
Nah,
dhikr.
nah.
That's alhamdulillah, we have lots of adhkar. And of course the month of Sha'ban is a great month for dhikr as well.
My next question was, as we are coming into the month of Sha'ban, the month of Sha'ban has got many celebrations for us, alhamdulillah, the births of many a'imma. It brightens our week, our month, our year. What are some of the best acts to do in Shahr Sha'ban, other than fasting? We know that fasting is great. Can you maybe tell us what are the rewards for those that fast in the month of Sha'ban?
I was just reading that the one who fasts Sha'ban, he would basically gain the paradise.
MashaAllah.
It's one of the great rewards
Nah.
of Allah Azza wa Jal. In anyhow, one of the important a'mal of daily in Sha'ban is to recite this short dua. You'll find in Mafatih Janan in the noon time. So either by the adhan time or between your salat dhuhr and asr. You know, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, shajarat al-nubuwwah wa risala. So that's shajarat al-nubuwwah is known as the dua. Very important dua to recite in this time, you know, when everyone is busy in their daily chores and life. So to be read in the noon time. Also, as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad in this great month as well. And one can find more a'mal, inshallah.
Inshallah. I think just to one of the things that I have read is that fasting the month of Sha'ban is, fasting one day in the month of Sha'ban is rewarded as fasting 60 years. I'm not sure actually the hadith itself, but this is somewhere I've read it twice and 3 times. So inshallah we shall motivate each other to be fasting the month of Sha'ban and preparing ourselves for the month of Ramadan, which is inshallah coming very soon.
Inshallah.
Coming back to the questions, we have a question and it says, does Islam allow a Muslim to favor his own people or clan over others, driven by nationalism in which promotes the interests of a particular nation?
Well, in the boundary of Islam as a religion, there's no room for nationalism and racism and so forth. Allah states in the Holy Quran in Surah 49 verse 13, إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The best among you is the one, is the most righteous in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. Taqwa, righteousness, God-fearing, this is what Allah wants from us. It doesn't matter what is your color, your race, background, ethnicity and so forth. What is important is to have taqwa, to fear Allah Azza wa Jal, is to implement and apply the wajibat and prevent from the muharramat and the forbidden acts. That's what Allah wants. That we try to be loyal servants of Allah Azza wa Jal. Try to implement His laws and legislations. You know, sadly, we try to do this in this world. You know, try to avoid, for example, any penalties. For example, any you know, crossing the red lines of the today's laws and legislations in the country that we live in. But when it comes to Allah Azza wa Jal, easily we can, you know, some of us, la samah Allah, would, you know, ignore the salah, ignore the hijab, for example. Listen to music, for example. You know, mix gathering in a wedding, for example, with music and dance. You know, when it comes to Allah's laws and legislation, we don't have any fear in some of us. You know,
unfortunately.
La samah Allah. But when it comes to the law of the country, of the land, no, we have to abide and try to pay all the taxes and insurances and so forth to avoid any kind of penalties and punishments. So we have to always have this Allah's remembrance in our hearts and mind, that one day we'll be taken towards the hisab and we have to answer Allah Azza wa Jal. So we try to implement and apply Allah's laws as well, in which we'll have a great reward in the hereafter.
Inshallah. And I think that brings us really close to just saying, how do we come closer to Allah? It's just by doing much more dhikr, the ones that you've told before. So it just brings us all together, inshallah. We have a WhatsApp question, and I think everybody's had this situation. It says, Assalamu alaikum, please, is touching a can of beer, for example, removing it from where it was? For example, somebody was sitting and drinking from this can of beer, removing it, or somebody's at the table, in the bus stop, at the bench, removing this can or this bottle. Is this haram or not?
The narrations mention about those who actually participate in the final production of the alcohol. So there's a la'an and let's say curse on those who brew the alcohol, on those who, for example, prepare it, serve it on the table, carry it, for example, deliver it from one place to another. There's la'an about them. But somebody wants to destroy, that's of course a different story, because you want to destroy, throw in the bin, for example.
No.
And avoid that is of course different than this, what is mentioned in the narration.
Naam, inshallah. Thank you for that, Sheikh. We have a WhatsApp question. It says, Salaam alaikum. I made a promise to Allah that if I committed a particular sin, I would fast for 30 days. Unfortunately, I committed the same sin but didn't fast. I asked Allah for forgiveness and told Him if I commit the sin again, I would fast for 120 days. Unfortunately, I committed the sin again. I feel like I can't fulfill my promise, but I am determined to never committing it again. Must I still fast or am I forgiven?
You see, there are specific terms for the one who wants to do ahad or oath and so forth. Let's say ahadullah, for example, or for the oath to say wallahi billahi tallahi.
Yes.
These are the shari oaths in which they will have as a result if somebody did not basically perform these ahad or oath, then of course they have to, let's say, pay penalty and so forth.
No.
So we have to see if he or she used the same term.
This qasam.
Yeah, for example.
No,
It
inshallah.
depends.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. Inshallah, that's answered the question. For the question that's come through WhatsApp, I would like to see much more Facebook questions because we know we have viewers watching through Facebook. We have a YouTube question that says, if I pray Dhuhr on time and then pray Asr 1 hour later, does this count as not praying them on time or not?
Well, I've mentioned this many times that we've been encouraged to join the Salah,
Nah.
Dhuhr and Asr together.
Is
So-
this by riwayat and ahadith?
Yes, yes, indeed. Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhim, they joined the Salah. Rasulullah himself, according to the Ahlul Sunnah,
Nah.
that he joined the Salah, between the two Salah, without any reason, like rain or cold and so forth. So they even mentioned that Rasulullah, he later joined the Salah, but
Na'am.
without any reason. Because their reason was, if it's raining, then of course you can join Salah and pray quickly and go home. Or let's say if it's very cold, snowy, for example, whatever makes the reason for one to join the Salah. But their narration mentions that he joined the Salah without any reason.
And this is in this
And Ahlul Sunnah's book.
Ahlul
Yeah,
Sunnah.
yeah.
So why do they not bring their praise together? According to them, it's got more rewards not bring it together, or what?
No, what happens that if you want to separate between these two Salah, you have to basically sit in your prayer mat and do tasbih and dhikr and ad'iyah till the Salatul Asr time.
Na'am.
If you want to join, separate them.
No.
So if the brother wants to pray in an hour later, the way is that he needs to sit on his, continue his dhikr till 1 hour time and then praise the Asr afterwards.
No, inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have another WhatsApp question that says, what is the procedure for Hawza admissions in Qom, the Hawza Ilmiya Qom, Iran, of His Eminence Sayyid Sadiq al-Shirazi?
Well, you have to contact the office there and you have to speak to those who are actually in charge with the enrollments in the house. That's the best, because I haven't really had any contacts with them with this regard. So one should contact them. You'll find their numbers on the
Inshallah, I'm sure
website, I think. Yeah.
There is, yes, I'm sure there is websites that you can go online, as well as social media platforms where they'll be able to answer this question in the right details. We shall be going on a short break. Please stay seated and prepare your questions. For those that have sent in their questions, we shall be answering them shortly after the break.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars
permissible
at
to
home.
plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the graves?
established based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted
individuals?
to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
Islam
the
establish
graves based on peace and
Is it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted
individuals?
to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, it was a short break and you have prepared your questions. We're excited to answer many more questions that have come in to us. Sheikhna, you are ready inshallah for questions that have come in. Our question says, what is the best way to confront the deviant ideologies and sects as they are now growing more than before, hitting our faith and people?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There's a narration by Abu Sat al-Harawi, narrates from the Imam al-Rida alayhi salam.
Alayhi salam.
He states that Rahimallah abd ahya amrana. May Allah have the mercy upon the one who would revive our matter. Abu Sat said, وَكَيْفَ يُحْيِي أَمْرَكُمْ? How can the one revive your matter? The Imam replied, يَتَعَلَّمْ عُلُومَنَا وَيُعَلُّمْهَا النَّاسِ. That the one learns the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt and he would teach it to the others. This is the best way in which one can confront such deviant thoughts and doctrines and beliefs. Then the Imam says, فَإِنَّ النَّاسِ لَوْ عَلِمُوا مَحَاسِنَ كَلَامِنَا لَاتَّبَعُونَا. If the people knew the beauty of our words, they would follow us. But the problem is the media is not with us. The media is with the strongest, with the most evil ones, in which they are spreading corruption, deviant thoughts and beliefs. And as you can see, the world media is not with us. That's why we cannot really reach to the billions. You can reach the billions with World Cup and so forth easily, because they own the media. But when it comes to ulum of Ali Muhammad sallallahu you have no choice. They try to block you, to avoid you from spreading this great knowledge of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam.
But inshallah, it's unfortunate that today's day and age, this is how the world runs and how media runs. But inshallah, through the platforms that we provide, inshallah, we shall be spreading the love and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. Inshallah, we shall learn them, pick them up and share them with others. We have another question and it says, is it obligatory to wipe on the eyebrow when performing tayammum by Ayatollah Khurasani? What does he say about this? What is his opinion?
The Shaykh, Hafidhahullah, says that as a precaution, ihtiyat, the eyebrows should be wiped as well. And that's many of ulama would mention this as well. The way you would wipe the forehead and all the way down, and then you wipe your both hands. When
wiping the face, automatically you'll be wiping your eyebrow. But are they specifically to addressed to make sure you get the eyebrows?
It's to wipe, so it comes actually all the way down, because that's how tayammum is to wipe the forehead and all the way down.
Inshallah, thank you very much for that, Sheikh, and inshallah that's answered the question. We have another question and it says, if anyone is praying at home, does he require to call adhan for each prayer before Iqamah? And what is the opinion of Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani about this?
The Sayyid mentions that it suffices if the one calls for one adhan for both prayers, if he joins the prayers. Again, the issue of the brother who asked, or the sister who asked about separating between the prayers, and then doing mustahabbat and nafila and so forth, then in this situation one should, it's not wajib, but to do two separate adhan when you separate between the two prayers. But if you combine them, as we do, then one adhan would be enough. And
will be enough to do so. Inshallah, thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a YouTube question that's very straightforward. It says, is Bitcoin haram?
Different opinions between the ulama. We cannot really say it's haram or halal, but some will say haram, some will say halal. So you have to go back to your marja to see if they allow it.
Because as we see today through lots of social media and lots of the adverts that we see, there's so many new trading platforms. What does our maraji' say about this? Is it acceptable to participate with these things or not? Especially with the rewards that they are saying, invest, let's say £100 and you get an investment of £200 back. It was similar to the question that we had before, and it said giving $1,000 and getting $1,100 back. What do they say about this?
You see, as I've said, this is a new way of trading in which many of them differ with each other in terms of hurma and haliyya. So, as I've said, you have to go back to your marja to see if he specifically allows you to trade in this type of business or not. And of course, there's a difference between riba and mudaraba. Mudaraba is actually you invest and you get back whatever is being gained through
because
that
it's an investment.
process. Investment, exactly. That's halal, but riba is a problem, as you mentioned.
Which is interest, basically.
Interest, fixed interest, this much you get, and so forth.
Na'am, thank you very much for that. We have a WhatsApp question, and it says, okay, last question, but it's not our last question. It says, imagine you wear a fake aqiq ring. Will you still get the reward, or does it have to be a real aqiq ring?
What is mentioned is about the real aqiq ring.
Na'am.
Narrations and so forth in Salah to wear the actual aqiq ring.
Na'am.
So what we understand is the aqiq ring itself. Now with the fake, what does fake means? Is it just a normal stone?
Let it be plastic or stone.
You know, it's like when they say that to do tasbih Turbat Hussein alayhi salam. When the narration specifically speaks about something, you have to apply exactly the actual tasbih Turbat Hussein alayhi salam from Karbala, for example.
Na'am.
Likewise, the aqiq ring, for example, that to pray with it and so forth would have such and such reward. So we have to stick with the narrations.
Yes.
That to bring the actual aqiq ring and not something fake or a pebble, for example, and paint it in red and so forth.
Inshallah, inshallah. We have a YouTube question. It says, may Allah bless you, and it's in capital letters. How to increase our love to Allah with afiyah?
As I've said before, and I mention again, to love Allah Azza wa Jal, as mentioned before in the previous question, Inna akramakum, the best among you.
Yes.
Akram, the most blessed among you is the one who atqakum, the one who is righteous, the one who has taqwa. If you do less sins as much as you can, and more good acts and deeds, and especially to stick with the wajibat and do them on time.
Yes.
And try to avoid all types of muharramat, from backbiting, slandering, lying, and so forth, eating halal food, earning halal money, and so forth. That would eventually, plant the hubb of Allah Azza wa Jal in one's heart, love Allah Azza wa Jal. So one should listen to Allah Azza wa Jal, be a good slave of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah, of course, would give the tawfiq to be dunya and akhir, both.
Inshallah.
To be a righteous individual and to offer the khair to himself and to everyone.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have another question of love, and it's a YouTube question. It says, should we love the person we marry or marry the person we love?
The Quran says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, that when you marry, Allah Azza wa Jalla would make that mawadda and love and mercy between you both. So there's a marriage and there's a mawadda and rahmah between each of you.
No.
So it's a mutual love as a result of this blessed marriage.
Yes.
Halal marriage.
Yes.
Brings this love as a result.
Naam. And the same person finishes the questions off and says, also, does the same apply to temporary marriage?
Of course, the temporary marriage is a short-term marriage and has a specific time and period. So it could be, yes, it could be some kind of love would, initiate through this marriage. Otherwise, they wouldn't really go into such a relationship, for example.
Sahih.
And they could end up marrying for long term as a result.
Yes. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a question, and it says, the zakah which is disposed to the poor and the ones in need. What are their criteria in terms of qualifying for this? Especially in today's day and age where you have people that have food, but they don't have the accessories of life, like they don't have a plasma TV, or they don't have food but they've got clothes, or they don't have clothes but they have food. So how do you get the right criteria today?
We have the faqir or the poor is the one who does not possess the annual expenses.
No.
The one who cannot really have the annual saving to be able to, let's say, pay his humus and then travel and so forth. This individual is, of course, poor.
Yes.
In which, if he's not Sayyid, the zakat would be eligible for him.
No.
Or if he's a Sayyid, then of course the khumus of Sahmus Sada would be eligible for this individual. Or the one who is miskin, destitute. He's worse than the poor.
No.
Of course, miskin also deserves to have also the zakat, as I've said, if he's a not Sayyid. If he's a Sayyid, then of course the khumus of Sada would be eligible for such payments.
No.
To support them.
No. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a YouTube question. It says, Salaam alaikum. How to combine between Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha prayers?
The best thing is to pray each on time.
Yes.
Don't join them like four salat, one after another.
No.
Because some people, what they do, they pray late, Dhuhr and Asr. So let's say if it's 5 o'clock is the sunset,
yes,
they would pray Dhuhr Asr
just before
4:45.
No.
15 minutes before the sunset.
And then they have enough time to
and
pray.
Then they wait for the Maghrib Isha, and they join as well.
No.
After. So this is the wrong way for praying. You have to pray on time when the adhan is called.
Yes.
This has blessing in dunya and blessings in the akhirah as well. One should not delay his salah. We have lots of narrations that discourage one's intentionally delaying their salah.
Yes.
As from Imam Hussein mentioned that لا تنال شفاعتنا مستخف بصلاته. Our shafa'a would not reach the one who takes the salah lightly, neglects the salah. So one should try to pray on time, inshallah.
Can we say that we should pray at 3 different times in the day? Salat al-Subuh in its time, Dhuhr and Asr on its time,
exactly.
and Maghrib and Isha. It's 5 prayers, but at 3 different
in
times.
3 sessions, exactly.
In 3 sessions or segments.
Exactly. Yes.
I think that makes it much easier, and inshallah that's answered the question as well. We have another question, and I think this is one of the biggest topics in today's day and age, especially through the media and what the media is affecting and how it is hitting us. It's a YouTube question, and it says, is there any way for unity of Muslims throughout the world?
Yes, indeed. The unity that is accepted, as mentioned by Imam Ali alayhi salam, الناس صنفان إما أخ لك في الدين أو نظير لك في الخلق. People are of 2 types: a brother in religion, or نظير لك في الخلق, or
he's a human
in humanity, of course, yeah. So we are living with people now from different backgrounds, ethnicity, religion, faith, aqidah, non-aqidah, no faith.
صحيح.
Neighbors, you can find one Hindu, one Christian, one Jew, one, atheist. We live with them as part of humans,
صحيح.
as humanity, respecting each other. We just go out and come and we buy and trade and so forth.
No.
But when it comes to aqidah and belief, we shouldn't really give up our aqidah for them. Saying that no, because you're, for example, a Christian, then we respect your belief, the Trinity, or the Quran says, كفر الذين قالوا إن you can't just neglect your aqidah and turn down your aqidah in somehow.
Can we say everything has a limit to it?
Exactly.
And when it goes over this limit, you can't let it pass by?
Of course, yeah.
No.
So when it comes to aqidah, we're open. As the Quran says, كفر الذين قالوا إن الله ثالث ثلاث. خلاص. That's the reality, of course. وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. But I can't really ignore my aqidah and try to be lenient with their aqidah and join them in their... No, that's wrong.
That's not acceptable.
That's the wrong type of unity.
No, inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a WhatsApp question that says, Salaamun alaikum, Sheikh. How come Shi'as and Sunnis always have different Eids and different days for when Ramadan starts? Don't we all use the same methods? Jazakallah khair.
Ahsantum. The problem with the Ahlul Sunnah that they follow their governments and not their ulama. That's the problem. You see, the government is the one who announces the Eid. Look at the Arabia, for example. It's the government in which announces the Eid, and people follow their governments. That's the problem with the caliphate system since the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That the caliphate would announce, the Eid. There's a narration that I remember when one of the caliphates invited the Imam alayhi salam to break his fast when it was saying that today is Eid, while it was fasting day. It was such intense in that time that they would even force the Imam to, for example, to break his fast, otherwise things would be worsened.
And there are hadith for this?
Yes.
In our books?
Yes. In which in the time of Khulafa, they did this to one of the Imams alayhim salam, that the so-called caliph, announced Eid today, where there was actually last day of month of Ramadan. So we rely on our ulama when they send, people who would do the sighting of the moon, Hilal. And that's what the difference, because we follow the sighting and they follow their leaders and governments. That's their problem. That's why you have always two different days in terms of Eid or the day of Ramadan.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a YouTube question and it says, what does the hadith or Quran say about being ugly? How would the Imams interact with such people?
Of course, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Holy Quran that He created the man بأحسن التقويم. In the best form, Allah created the humanity. But in anyhow, there are reasons or different causes in which would cause such things, as a result. Let's say we have specific days, it is makruh for the one to basically perform the marital intercourse, for example. Specific days or nights, you should refrain from doing so. So one should be very careful when it comes to basically planning to have a child, for example, to choose the right days and the right nights. So we have narrations with this regard, to avoid such intercourse in the first of the month, half of the month, and the end of the month, and in the days in which there are qamar fil aqrab, as they say, where the moon passes the Scorpio position. So one should be very careful when it comes to these specific days and nights, to choose the right night so that they would have a blessed child, inshallah, without any conditions, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikh. We have a YouTube question that says, is there any meanings of colors or for wearing colored clothes like white or black? Does this have an effect on us, or can we come back to a rawaya or a hadith to come back about wearing colors or clothes of colors? And that should be our final question.
There are mentioned, for example, if one wanted to do something specific amal, to wear, let's say, white, clean clothes and so forth, for the salah, for example, specific amal, for example, for the black color, for example. Some ulama mentioned that it's like makruh to wear black other than the occasions of Ahlul Bayt's departure and martyrdom, for example. So there are mentioned in the books of the fiqh about this issue, that one, what can they actually wear as mustahab, and of course makruh, not haram or wajib. So these are an open, options for the one to wear. And we see many people would wear, all the time black, for example. One should change ala kulli hal to wear something light as a result.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for that, Sheikhna. Thanks for answering all the questions. Thank you for the people and the viewers that have sent in their questions. Inshallah, we have read as many questions as we could. I know we have skipped some questions, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Inshallah, we will be able to answer these questions in the next coming show. Thank you very much to the whole team, and we shall see you next time. Fi amanillah, ma'a salama.
With more and more victims of war and poverty, the Middle East has seen a surge in patients seeking medical aid. Iraq alone has 2.4 million people without access to any form of medical assistance. In Afghanistan, due to the lack of funding and devastating conflict, the health service is at breaking point. Imam Hussein Charity aims to help provide a better future for these impoverished patients, aiding them with finances for their prescriptions as well as dialysis of their kidneys. You can help our brothers and sisters with purchases of prescriptions for just £20, and for £200 help a patient with a dialysis procedure. To donate or for more information, visit www.imamhusseincharity.com.
Even death was not able to separate Abbas from Hussein, just as the haram of Abbas cannot be separated from the haram of Hussein, in the same way that suffocation